Ready and action.
You gotta say Michael's something.
No, all he needs. I'm Michael Marcus Sowl, after my dad's youngest brother.
Oh yeah, yeah. And where were you born?
I was born in Boston, Minnesota.
Oh, Boston. I was gonna guess it was Duluth.
No, it wasn't Boston either. It was Boston.
Boston. Is that over by the North Dakota border?
Yeah, up that way, up by Crookston.
And what year was that in?
43, 1943.
1943. Yeah. And then what? How old were you when you moved to Duluth?
One.
Oh,
I spent almost a whole year in Boston.
yeah. That was enough.
That's enough of that place.
Yes. And you lived in a neighborhood over on the west side and over in West End?
Yeah, and Indian Point first, by the zoo.
Oh, by the zoo?
Yeah, and then we moved. When my dad died, we moved to the West End, where the post office is now.
Did that neighborhood have a name at that time?
Indian Point did, but not the West End. It was just
I remember you saying it was like it doesn't look the same now as it did.
No, it was Duluth Ghetto, and they tore it all down, and we all moved out.
Yeah, yeah. And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
A lot.
That's what I thought,
3 sisters and 4 brothers.
Yes, yes.
And now there's 1 sister and 4 brothers left. 3 brothers left.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, math.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Korea?
Yeah, for a little bit, not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
Was it the Korean War?
No.
No.
No, I'm not that old.
No. Shows how much I Was it the Vietnam era?
It was right at the beginning, right, kind of in between. So it was like 10 years after the Korean War, and
Yeah,
just right at the beginning of the Vietnam thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you had learned to speak some Korean, is that right?
Yeah, well, mostly understand it more
yeah.
than speak it. So
Yeah. And you were your job was to listen to their radio communications?
yeah, but I can't tell you anymore. Otherwise, I have to shoot.
Okay, don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just, yeah.
Yeah.
It was to find out what they were doing before they were doing it,
Wow.
and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, still going on.
Do you follow like North Korea in the years since then?
Oh yeah, well, it's just because you were, it's just, because I was there, so it's kind of interesting, So I kind of pay attention because I know what they're talking about in
Yes.
cities and stuff.
And it's got quite the, culture is quite insulated and unusual there now. People say.
Yeah, it's not anymore. It used to be even really, well, they call themselves the Hermit Kingdom because they were isolated. But now South Korea is, big trading
just like
partner
the
with
United
us.
States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a shirt one time that had the at night, the of Asia at night, like they got Minnesota at night or Duluth or
Oh
something.
yeah.
And so it had Japan and China and Korea, and everything's all lit up, and North Korea is all black. There's
Wow.
no lights at all.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's very poor there, I guess.
Yeah, there's they're sitting on a lot of stuff, but it's.
Million man army.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, everybody's in the army, I think, if you're old enough. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You moved from there to. Did you come back to Duluth first before going to California?
No, I was discharged in California. I just stayed in California
there,
for.
Yeah.
I knew about Duluth.
Oh, sure. It doesn't change much, does it?
And I'd been in Monterey for a year going to school, so I knew about Monterey.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing was what's goofy is I think the unemployment here, and you get unemployment after you get out of service, like any other job in them days.
Yeah.
And I think it was the unemployment in Duluth was something like $18 a week or something.
Yeah.
And out there it was like 32.
Nice.
Thinking,
That's a no-brainer, huh?
And then they lost my pay records too, so I could have got out, but I stayed in until they found out where they were. So I had a big pile of money at the time.
Oh, nice.
I had about $1,000, and my rent was $30 a month.
So you were set
I
for
was
a
set
while.
for a long time.
What year was that?
65.
65, yeah.
Summer of 65.
Yeah.
That sounds like a song title, doesn't
Sure
it?
does. Well, that was California.
No, that was the old, what was it? The old, the band.
Oh, yeah.
The Civil War song. In the winter
Yeah,
of
the winter
65.
of 65. I love that song.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so good. It's very, like, you know, sad. That seems like a sad song to me.
Yeah, it is,
That
yeah.
You drove Old Dixie down?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what's his name? Garth, no.
Yeah, Garth Hudson.
And the guy who sang it, though, was,
The drummer, right?
yeah, no, I think it was Richard, what was the Southerner, the guy from Arkansas that was on there?
Yeah.
He was the one that sang that song.
I know who you mean. But
Yeah, I
think
can't think of his name. I think he's gone now, too, I think.
Yeah, the Southerner of the bunch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So how far is Monterey from San Francisco?
Oh, it's like going to Minneapolis or a little bit less,
Okay.
100, 120 miles or something.
Yeah. So you were right there before like 67 and everything that
Yeah,
happened
I
in San
was there in
Francisco.
'63. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wasn't part of that. I wasn't part of that. I mean, we'd go visit that and
Yeah,
for a while, go up there for jobs and stuff. But
right.
I didn't live there very much.
Okay.
I
What
lived
did
there
you
every
think
now
of all
and then.
that with the hippie
I loved it.
dress? Why not, right?
And by '67, when it got really famous, then it started to get shitty.
Oh yeah.
People are in there, ripping people off and
Oh.
and doing,
Right.
So it was better before it got famous. The Gray Line tours going through, and
Yeah.
I mean all that stuff is true.
Yeah.
The
Right.
tourists from Iowa taking pictures of the hippies like they're at a zoo,
Yes. Right. That's the way it goes. Sometimes there's a spark of something really pure, and
Yeah.
then as time goes on, it just the
People
world
glom
kinda
onto
gets
it.
at
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it was, but it was still fun.
Yeah. Do you remember any concerts that you saw at that time?
Well, there's all kinds of free music,
Yeah.
and that was it was everywhere.
Mhm.
And that was in '65, and when I was in the service, even we'd go up there and you'd hear stuff, '66.
Yeah.
So the Dead were starting, all
Oh,
the Airplane and all those people.
Yeah.
And they usually, you go out to Golden Gate Park and they'd play every Saturday. There'd be somebody out there playing free.
Yeah.
Uh,
That sounds really good.
oh, the music was just everywhere.
Yeah.
And most of it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get into it.
Do you know?
Yeah, you would have loved it.
I'm sure I would have. Yeah. Buddy Guy's album.
Yeah.
San Francisco.
Yeah, Buddy Guy's great. Yeah.
Boy, did he sound amazing at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every Girl I See was one of his songs.
Yeah.
He likes every girl that he sees.
Oh yeah, Jesus, he's good. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah.
He's still kicking it. He's still playing
I think so,
music. Yeah.
And when I think of Monterey, I think of like Steinbeck.
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of that till I got in, till I was stationed there, and then everybody started reading this stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I got out of the Air Force, then I went down and I stayed in a motel downtown Monterey for a few days.
Yeah.
Looked around for the ads, Here's the shit. You got a room with they had 2 bathrooms down the hall
Yeah.
and a kitchen.
Yeah.
And so you could cook your own food, but you had to deal with the people that were living there. And there was
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 apartments, and it was just great. It was just perfect.
Yeah.
And it had deck sitting. There's a deck sitting on. It was Wing Chong's grocery store.
Mm. And it was
It's in Steinbeck, so there
it's
was.
in Steinbeck, huh?
it's-
That
that's-
very hotel.
Yeah, that's they always talk about it.
Oh,
Wing
yeah.
Chong's grocery.
Yeah.
And so, and then the upstairs, I think, was a whorehouse at one time.
Wow.
And then the guy that bought it just kind of made rental rooms out of it.
Yeah.
So the people I was with there were just great. Everybody was from
Yeah.
someplace else.
Yeah.
And they're all living there because it's so cheap and cooking together, eating together.
Yeah.
That lasted about a year or less.
I remember those books like Cannery Row, Tortilla Flat,
Yeah,
and there would just be people who were,
yeah.
partying and they were just kind of goofballs.
Yeah,
and, you know,
yeah.
that whole thing.
There's a place still there on Cannery Row. It's Doc Ricketts. Do you read those books?
Yeah. It's
So
been a while though. Yeah.
he was the marine biologist.
Yes.
His laboratory, and when I was there, we'd sit up on the
Oops.
at the. That was good, right? It's motion.
Action. That's the action shot.
So yeah, so he had what did he have? Something like God, I can't remember now. But yeah, so it's a Polygon bookstore was right in that in the Wing Chong's grocery store downstairs.
Ah.
And then there was another part of it. So then everybody was reading those books.
Oh yeah.
But at Doc's lab, so we'd sit on the balcony above Wing Chong's grocery store because that was our place, the upstairs.
Yeah.
And so we'd sit up there and across the street and down the block, about a half a block, was Doc's lab.
Mm.
And about once a month, these old guys would show up, and somebody had a key, and they'd go in, and they'd spend the day there, and they'd come out rip-roaring drunk, pretty much. They were all his buddies. They were still around. It was just amazing.
He was an actual person who still lived there?
He was dead. He got killed by he was killed in his car coming off Cannery Row. And he wasn't paying attention because he was kind of spacey, and there's a train tracks there. And he got wiped out.
Wow.
But these, I think, were still some of his friends they're supposed to be, the rumor was like 10 or 12 of them had keys. It was some friend of yours. So, yeah. So they had keys, and it was like they just, and they'd show up. They're all old guys. They'd show up about once a month and go in there and come out shit-faced. So.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, they're pretty much, I don't know.
I remember this scene in Tortilla Flat where they were these roommates who would talk themselves into drinking their roommate's wine when he wasn't there.
Yes, yeah.
And they would say, well, I think, it would be rude of us not to at least have a little bit.
Yes. Steinbeck had it nailed.
Yes.
But, now it's just upscale tourism. And they made the... My buddy Pat Chin came out to visit me in, I suppose that was 65 or something, and 66 maybe, and it was summer. He was going to UMD, but he had to do something for the summer. Mm-hmm. So he got a job at Hovden's Cannery because they were canning squid. Nobody was eating squid here then, but they'd ship it to the Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. The Italians loved it, and the Portuguese and the Spaniards. Yeah. And so when they were running, it was like smelt in Duluth. Oh. You just almost walk across them, and then birds would be chasing them, and then the seals would be chasing the fish and the salmon, and it was just nuts.
Well, that sounds fun.
So he got in on that, and then. Within a few years, that was done. It was Hovden's Cannery, and they turned it into the what do you call it? Aquarium of California. It's a huge, big tourist thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. It's the old Hovden's Cannery. Huh. So they had a sign on the side of their building that said, "Hovden's can as long as you can."
Well, that's cool that it's still being used a lot.
Yeah, it's a big aquarium in California.
Yeah.
So now you stand in line for hours and pay $25 or whatever it is to get in there. I don't know what it is. But
yeah. And how did you come to start being around people who were writing books?
That was the same crew.
Yeah. What kind of things were they writing at that time?
Well, it's just putting out little chapbooks, and there's, like I said, there's this little bookstore downstairs of Good Old Roy's, which is what the place was called. Good Old Roy's Flop House is where we lived upstairs. And so the Polygon bookstore, the guy that owned that was a Monterey character, an old timer, and so he encouraged people, to write stuff. And he actually, my friend Keith Abbott, he published Keith Abbott's first book.
Oh yeah.
It's a little tiny bookstore on Cannery Row. And he paid for it. And,
was it fiction or poetry? Or?
Oh no, it was all poetry. It was just a little booklet.
Sure.
But that's how he got started. And then Pat Nolan was fronting the Dissolved Solution Blues Band. He was a
Oh,
singer
yeah.
and writing
Cool.
some tunes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Guys are just writing books. Huh?
Well, no, he just just it was whatever you could do to make a few bucks and do
Yeah.
what you like to do and not do much. It
Yeah.
was,
Sounds nice.
yeah, it was. It was. I got into hauling and stuff,
Yeah.
trash or furniture or anything. We'd
Like
haul
in the
stuff.
book Gush.
Yeah, well, and so then you just only work when you
Yes.
needed some money.
Kind of like painting houses.
Yes, same kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great. It worked out good. There's usually enough work for all of us.
Yeah. The hauling business.
Yeah, and then and furniture moving and stuff like that. We had
Yeah.
some of my friends had kind of big pickups with
Yeah.
sideboards and
Yeah. But it didn't always go so smoothly.
no,
Like
some
in
of
the
them
book,
just
there's this
yeah.
really wild character, and he's very, he's just
Which
got
book?
a lot of zest for life. It seems like, and also like a talent for getting into trouble in that Gush book.
Oh, and gosh,
Yes,
Yeah.
and I just remember, was there some kind of like an accident with the truck, or something happened with the truck?
oh God, there were so many
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, stuff laying all over the.
Yes.
I had pictures one time. I took. We were moving a bunch of stuff out of Carmel Valley, a fancy house, and it rained for like days.
Mhm.
And we went out there with the truck and loaded the truck, and the truck just kept getting deeper and deeper into the mud.
Oh yeah.
tearing up this horse thing, and there was a lot of adventures.
And then you wound up getting into this Japanese style of poetry, renku. Is it? What would you call that style?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's
Renku.
just yeah, it's like chainmail poetry.
Yes.
Yeah,
And back in the day, it was done live, like almost like a live
yeah.
performance.
In Japan, I think it was an excuse to get drunk, and
Yes.
they'd sit around and somebody would stay sober and write down what they said,
Yes.
and then so you had to do it. It was also you had to be really quick on
Yes.
your feet and stuff like that.
Uh,
I think that's how it worked.
they were kind of the entertainers of that.
Well, they were entertaining themselves. They'd get some good food and some good sake or whatever they
Yes.
drank, and
And it's related to
And it-
haiku.
yeah, haiku's a part of it. So
Yes.
yeah,
And is it because it's of a similar length as a haiku, right? Would you say each
Well-
person's contribution?
well,
to
there's I can't remember all the Japanese terms, but there's haiku and wakiku, I think it is,
okay.
and that's a 2-line stanza.
Yeah.
So it's 2-liners and then 3-liners and 2-liners and 3-liners.
Yeah.
So, and they had to come up with it on the spot. So it was,
Yes.
and then they had somebody staying sober to write it down.
Yes.
So the way we did it, we just started doing it just because it was a way to get good mail, because
Yes.
we were all living in that same place kind of for about 6 months, or it was a very short time, but it seemed like it was a long time.
Yes.
And we're still in touch 50,
Yes.
50 years later. It's just amazing to me.
That is great.
And I think part of it's that's kept us, kept the thing, the conversation going. Like, what's his name? He used to say, "Cod rescue, Andrew, cod rescue."
Yes.
Continue the conversation.
Yeah.
I
The
think
guy
that's
he does the exquisite corpse.
yeah. I think he said that about just poet Jeffrey Miller, who died. I guess I never met. I don't think I ever met him, but they did a thing for him, and Andre Kodrisky was one. Andre was one of the people that was.
Yeah.
And somehow he lived by Pat Nolan, or he knew Pat Nolan, or Pat Nolan had published some of his stuff, or vice versa. And so they got to be really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing about that was Jeffrey Miller's, whatever.
Seems like
Memorial.
there's a theme of Eastern sort of culture, because in addition to writing this Japanese poetry style, there was some interest in like Buddhism. Is that right?
Oh yeah,
Amongst
I
you
think
and
so.
your friends?
Yeah, and it kind of opens, things open up on each other. It's like, where does this come from? And if you're reading some of that stuff, you're thinking these people are writing this in 1600s, and it sounds like you and I talking on the porch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which gives you a kind of a, it's just I don't know. it's kind of a good feeling that human beings haven't changed in 500 years
Yeah.
much. I mean, it's the same. Things are fancier. They didn't have this, but
Yeah.
they had entertainment.
They had somebody writing it down.
Yeah, yeah.
And so a person that was going to compose a link. Am I using the right word for that?
Yeah, that's what we call it. Anyway.
Either a 2-line couplet or a 3-line.
Yeah. Haiku kind of.
Haiku.
Yeah, haiku is one breath.
Yeah. Yes. So in the Eastern way of thinking about a haiku, it wasn't about counting syllables. Would you say that's true?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's when I think of one breath. I think of they're saying, well.
I think they figured out it was 17 syllables in English is normal for one breath. I don't know who figured that out. Yeah. And the Japanese, they write it straight out. Oh. They don't do the line breaks, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah. And it would be something a lot of the times about the natural world in the moment. They would say say something about the season, maybe.
Yeah, I think we've Americanized it so much that it's you can't you're not of that culture. It's really hard to follow their rules because we don't understand them. Really.
Yeah.
So we took the pattern and kind of the spirit of it and just made it Americanized it or westernized it, I guess, or something.
And is it
we don't worry about that, or at least I don't.
Yes, right. Each link is somewhat, but not overtly connected to the one before it. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, there has to be some connection, and the connections can be very, very subtle, or just are not apparent to anybody else but the person who's connecting.
Right.
And then I might have to explain it. What's the connection here?
Yes.
That's the way we've been doing it, anyways.
Yeah, and it would be outside the character it would be outside of the spirit of the piece for there to be too overt a connection. Would you say?
Yeah. It's not a story. It's not a linear tale. There's no narrative.
Yeah.
So it has to do all these.
That's a discipline unto itself, I think.
Yeah, to make right hand turns and about faces and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And still connect some way.
I noticed that when doing the faux finish painting, it's you must not have a pattern.
Right. Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah. It looks
sort
random.
of holding together, but not
random. Yeah, it's a work of art.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so people would send the links through the mail, and then what would result from that would be a poem, right?
Yeah, and actually, it was when we first started doing it. It was just an excuse to to keep in touch, kind of thing.
Yes.
Before everybody had internet, and long distance was very expensive to call, and you wouldn't have that to say anyway. So.
Sure. So 4 people would collaborate on a 36.
Sometimes 3, 4, 2, 1 person even can do it by yourself. I'm real one myself.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But it's a lot harder because it's up to you. Then.
Yeah. What's the name of the one that you wrote?
I can't remember.
Okay.
It's a while back. Distant Fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sky is strange orange. Distant smoke. High smoke from a distant fire.
Yeah.
So I was I should try to find a copy of the thing.
Yeah.
Because it was all kind of about this, what we're doing right now, sitting on the porch and looking at 9th Street. What changes? And it was in one day. I tried to do it.
You wrote the whole thing in one day?
Yeah, I tried to do it in one day.
Yes. And, when I read your links, I always picture this place.
So
the mailman catches hell down the block.
Yeah.
That's one of yours, I think.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably still doing it, but that's...
The mailman's late and he's catching hell all down the block.
Yeah.